speaker and budgeting coach with a master's degree in positive developmental psychology. She has a #1 new release book and over 6 years of experience guiding people toward joyful, values-driven success. Known for her accessible and inspiring approach, Marin has created impactful tools like the Decision Formula, DECISION. There's a period after each one of those letters. So the Decision Formula. That formula and joyful budgeting allows clients to empower themselves to make confident choices with their money, career, and life. Her workshops blend evidence-based techniques with motivational insights, helping participants overcome limiting beliefs, create sustainable budgets. I'm gonna have to talk to you. And clarify their vision of success. Clients walk away with reduced stress, greater confidence, and empowered relationship with money that fuels lasting success and fulfillment. Woohoo! So Lake Harris Spiritual Community, please help me welcome Marin Laukka.
Thank you.
Marin.
Hello to some familiar faces. This is my 3rd time here, and I'm really honored to be back, and I'm really excited. I think I say this every time. I'm really excited for this month's topic. You'll hear more why it is so spot on to something that I'm excited to be talking about myself, my own personal and professional experience, but also to help all of us to really personalize it for whatever message you need to hear. So I'm always a big advocate to let what I say land in whatever way it does for you today, and totally filter it and personalize it and customize it to whatever brought you to today's service. The illusion of control is March's topic altogether. And I am excited to share some stories, 4 different stories today, to help us consider our interpretation of that phrase. So I have stories, but as I already prefaced, I like to have you guys think of it through your own lens. So before I start adding my interpretation of the illusion of control, just take a second and think, what comes to mind for you when you hear the phrase, the illusion of control? Is it a feeling? Is it fear? Like, what do you mean I don't have control? Is it excitement or intrigue? Maybe you're wondering, this could be an answer to a question that I've been grappling with for a while.
I actually feel
Freedom. You feel freedom. I love that. Is it a new sense of freedom, or like this could unlock a different form of freedom, or this lands with something I'm already kind of acting in alignment with?
I feel freedom when I'm sticking to my budget.
You feel freedom when you're sticking to your budget. I love that. The intro has already primed our brains that we're going to be talking about money and budgeting, which we won't today. But yeah, freedom when you're sticking to some sort of, whether that's control or like boundaries. I experience that a lot with my clients, is that sometimes the opposite happens when we put some parameters around our life or decisions or money. We actually have this huge sense of freedom because now there's something we can work within. I love that takeaway. Let's see if I locked this. Not working. There we go. Okay. You're here for something. These slides are pretty dark. I'm happy to share these afterwards if you can't see them quite clearly. You're here for something. Something made you raise your hand today to get out of bed, to come to this place. Maybe it's habit and routine. Maybe you come here every Sunday, every week, and you've built a community and there's comfort in that. Maybe you're facing a challenge or a question in your life and you're coming here to get some answers. Maybe you have a desire that you're working toward. You have a goal and you think there might be some motivation here, there might be some inspiration to help me toward that. Whatever it is for you today, keep that top of mind. And as I said before, filter everything I say through yourself and through what you need today. Control, the illusion of control, but let's focus on control as a starting point. This thing that, whether either of those 3 categories that I just introduced, a desire, a challenge, or maybe that comfort, familiarity, routine. Control tends to be this theme I see in inspirational quotes on Pinterest and Instagram, on the advice that we give each other of just like find whatever you can control and then do that thing. Figure out where you have control and then take control of that situation or in that way. And I'm not here to say that that's wrong. I'm very interested to hear how all of our speakers this month interpret this concept of the illusion of control. For me personally, as I think about this through my coaching practices, through my expertise, my life experience, I think of the illusion of control and control as this thing that just needs balance. So if we are so used to saying, and I experience, at least in my circles, we're more prone to seek that control or to think the control is the answer. If that's the proclivity that we have, maybe we try on for size, if only for these 40 minutes together today. What's the opposite side of that? Is there something else to be gained on the opposite side of the spectrum from control? And you get to decide what that is. There'll be a few examples throughout today. Ooh, you can't read that bio. That's okay. You heard it written out. And you can, by all means, come and ask me more today about my professional side of life, because today, in this presentation, I'll be focusing a little bit less on what I tend to do professionally, which is budget coaching, almost always, and financial wellness workshops. I have a background in positive developmental psychology, so I have this whole research base and my proclivity to positive psych, or the study of well-being. What happens when communities, when individuals, when organizations focus on the proactive work of our wellness instead of waiting for things to already get out of balance, waiting for things to already go awry, and then treating, which is equally as important. And also, there's this huge area that I'm so excited to be a part of the research and of practices in psychology where there's a proactive nature to it. There's a wellness lens to it. For my professional work, I took that for many years and focused on helping individuals through coaching to make confident decisions based on positive psych practices. What are your values? What are your goals? What is your personality? And how can we align your life to really fulfill those things and to support those things and to balance out those things? My first book is on making confident decisions. And after supporting hundreds of clients, thousands of audience members to make confident and clear decisions, I saw there was this one area of decision making that it felt like even if we had already made so much progress in the world of what are your values, what are your priorities, what lights you up, this one piece was the piece that was like, that stuff doesn't apply over here. And that was the conversation around money and finances, and budgeting specifically is where I took that. And so I'm very intrigued, and I think I could have certainly shared an entire presentation today on the illusion of control in our money and in our budgets. But today, I'm actually sharing a little bit more personal side of things because there's just too good of a story here to miss it. So this story starts, a little introduction. You need to know beyond my professional life who I am as a personality. And that is Little Miss Planner. That's like me to a T. I grew up setting up for Christmas in like September because I needed to make sure it was all good and clear. I grew up receiving gift cards for Christmas or for my birthday and saving them until I planned to use them for a need. That was my personality all the way from when I was little, and that continued throughout much of my life. Throughout my bachelor's degree, throughout applying for a PhD program and getting into that, and then deciding, you know what, my plan is to open a coaching practice and graduate with my master's and apply what I'm learning in positive psych rather than continue to research it. I planned my life to a T, and I liked that, and I had a lot of sense of control over that. Again, an opportunity for you to reflect in yourself. What is your version of that? Maybe you resonate deeply. Yeah, I'm a planner too. I like to feel like I have this sense of control. Maybe you like planning more than you like doing at times. You revert back to that planning process just to find that comfort. Maybe it's something different. What is it for you that creates that sense of control and comfort? What is your tendency? For me, it's planning. One example of this planner self and this sense of control that may or may not be there, the illusion of control, is when my fiance and I last year in January decided, you know what, those dreams of being homeowners, I think it's time to really put those plans into action. So we were dreaming about having this house, but then we thought, you know what, let's take control of this situation. Let's go for it. And planner me already had the plan down. Oh, we're fast forwarding a lot here. We had everything done right. We took the homeowner's course first because we wanted to know all of the knowledge. We interviewed all the professionals so that when it came time for the inspection, when it came time to bring on a realtor, we already had the interviews done and we already had them vetted for who we felt would be best to add to our little controlled situation. We calculated affordability because they give you that pre-approved loan, but as a budget coach, I knew that might not be the best place to go, and so I had my spreadsheet that planned it all out to a T so we could take control and decide what type of home we were gonna buy. And we shopped intentionally. We also planned for what we wanted. The decision coach that I am, we talked about what our values were, what our desired experience would be in this house, what our real goals were as homeowners. So when it came time to shopping, we didn't feel pulled in all these different places, but we felt in control of what we really wanted. And on April 19th, 2024, so just under a year ago, guess what? We closed on our first house. And not only did we close on this house, we did a lot of fun things in this house. We celebrated our engagement and planned our wedding to take place just a few weeks ago, recently married. We enjoyed friends and family, that value alignment that we talked about of having our friends and family over. That was a big thing. We chose the layout of our home based on family barbecues. We fixed up this house because we knew what we wanted for the future of our family within this house. Little Miss Planner was very happy. And then November 26th, 2024 happened. A few months after we purchased this home. At the time, my fiance and I were in Wisconsin, where my family lives, for that week of Thanksgiving. We were visiting there. We had been gone for a few days, and we woke up on Tuesday morning, the 26th, a phone call from Maplewood Police. And we thought, 2 in the morning, Patrick looked at me and he was like, do I answer this? Couldn't pick up quite in time, but our minds were already racing. We have a friend who's a police officer. Maybe he doesn't work for Maplewood, but I don't know, maybe he's trying to get a hold of us some way. Maybe, I hope everyone's okay. They called right away. And this time Patrick answered and said, hello. The first question, are you guys okay? Yeah. We looked around, we're in the guest room of my parents' house in Wisconsin. They're calling from Maplewood. And then they said, we're so sorry to tell you this, your house is on fire. News footage came out the day after. This is how we got the actual information of what that looked like. The next few hours are completely a blur. At first, it was your house is on fire. Your neighbors, who we love so much, they were knocking on the part of the house that wasn't quite on fire yet, worried that we were inside for 20 minutes. We were in Wisconsin. Our next thoughts were, what do we do? Do we drive back? What's happening? What does a fire mean? Is this like a kitchen thing that they use a fire extinguisher? What does that sound like? What does that look like? Do we come home, and what are we coming home to? Pretty quickly, the firefighters, who were so wonderful for us, but also obviously well-trained on situations like this, they were very adamant to repeat to us that this was a total loss. Your house was gone. They said this from the start. They wanted to rip that Band-Aid off and let us know this, you're not coming home to a house. So our house was gone. As I said, we were engaged. We got married just a few weeks ago. And what a year to reflect on as we were preparing for speeches and preparing to gather all of our closest family and friends, many of which were right alongside us from the very moment we got that first call. In one of our wedding speeches, in our thank you toast, we summarized and reflected before writing this of how we could possibly say that night we lost everything except what matters most. We lost everything except each other, except our love, except the ability to dream, even if our first variations of those dreams aren't the same anymore. I even still have my planner self. I still have my spreadsheets. I still have that proclivity to prepare and to feel prepared, even to feel in a sense of control, even after the fire. I'm like, okay, well, what is there to do next? I can still do that and follow through on that. We're going to be talking about this a little bit today, about what it's like to feel out of control, where there might still be control, where there certainly is not control, and this interesting middle space where when you lose something that you've been so used to having as a backbone or as a assumption about life, what is there in that's significant loss, that's hard, because that's certainly a piece of the conversation, but what in that do you also learn and expand your perception of what's possible? What's possible when we consider that control is an illusion, even as just a 40-minute consideration. We lost everything except what matters most, and one of the biggest things which I'll focus today on is that new perspective on life, that new perspective on a sense of control. And you saw the date, this was November 2024. I have so much to learn yet. This is fresh. This is actually the first time that I'm talking about it in front of a group. As I craft my next keynote, that's certainly gonna have some depth to it. And there's a lot that's already been learned in this 4-month intensive. I also want to acknowledge as we go into this conversation that, and I've already acknowledged this slightly, but to really drive this home, that just because there's positive psych behind my name, I always say this, have always said this because of that, but just because I'll also be talking about lessons that come from loss or lessons that have come from this fire experience, that there are different perceptions and things gained, there is still loss. And I think that's so important. It has been so important for Patrick and I to experience that when individuals acknowledge this just sounds hard. Like there's something so important to that. And so I want to also drive that home for you guys as well as you're reflecting through your own experiences, through your own understandings. The last thing I want anyone to do is to think that something that is really hard for you that you're going through, or something that feels super scary to let go of control or to realize there isn't control. Yes, there's something to gain there, but there's also just something hard about it. And that is part of it, and that is okay. And in fact, I'd say it's needed to let that be. The illusion of control. I'm going to be sharing this through 3 additional stories. You just heard the blip of the first one. And each of them has a lesson. It says lesson 1, 2, and 3 if you can't read that dark script there. Each lesson has an accompanying, each story has an accompanying lesson. The first story is the perfectionist's puppy. I intentionally named these to keep your intrigue. The perfectionist's puppy. The lesson here is a little preview of what's coming is why. Why do we grip control? The second, names on a page. What happens when you release control? And the third, your penthouse suite. That sounds fun. What if releasing control, what if entertaining this concept of the illusion of control actually gets you to a place that you never, ever could have gotten to had you held on to the very thing that you were so used to holding on to? I hope we're excited. Remember, you're here for something. Filter all of this through you and your needs. First story, the perfectionist's puppy. I've always loved puppies. Anyone have dogs, puppies, a lover of puppies and dogs? 1, 2, 3, a few. Okay. This is something that's it just felt like me. My personality, I said I was a planner, but there's also this super goofy, loving, like cuddly side. And my fiance, now husband, cannot keep up with the amount of like snuggles that I need. We always knew that we need a dog. I knew even before that relationship, a puppy was in my future. I even wrote, to this date, entertainingly so, it is the most common blog post, I see the stats every month, on my website. It's called How to Manifest a Dog. I wrote about how to manifest a puppy. I put it on vision boards. I talked about it. I rented apartments based on if they allowed dogs before I even had a dog, just so that in case a dog came into my life, I would be able to accept it. I had been planning for a dog forever, and I did get a dog. His name is Otto. Maybe you can't see his cute face as well as we need to eventually. I'll send out these slides just for this photo. I got a dog, and I got all the warnings from all family and friends. This is gonna be hard. You're taking this on yourself. At the time, I was solo parenting this puppy. But this is a dream of mine. I had always wanted this. This was something that was in my control to get and to train and to do right. I did it all right. I got the books. I had a spreadsheet for this dog because I heard that if you get it on a schedule, there's less accidents on your nice rug, right? And I followed that 6-week training program to a T. I also felt very good about it. It was like how to positively train your dog. So that positive psych background felt like it was somehow interlaying into this training of the dog as well. The thing is, you can't control a dog, even if you train it. You can't control a dog, especially a puppy, even when he's that cute. Or a child. I'll learn that in time, fingers crossed.
If you're going to have kids, this is perfect.
Yes, this is a lesson we all need. This is a lesson future me will need, and I'll keep coming back to. You can't constrain another being, even a plant, right? You can't just say, you know what, I would prefer you in this shady corner, even though it says that you need sunshine or whatever, a different environment. You just can't control it. You can plan for it, but you can't control it. And this rug that Otto's sitting on is one example of how I couldn't control him. It was a wool rug. It was beautiful. It had these like fringes on the side of it that looked very much like a dog rope toy. And I did all the things. I sprayed the safe but like deterrent stuff on those things. I rewarded by chewing something else. I got wool other ropes to like deter. This is the same thing. It's just meant for you. And he ruined this rug. And that was just one of many examples where it was being reflected back to me. You can't control this other thing. I was going crazy these first few months. And it had less to do with how challenging it was to train a dog. It just had more to do with I was being faced with the illusion of control. I was being faced with the concept of you can plan all you want, you can create your spreadsheets, you can take him out every hour, he's still gonna have accidents, he's still gonna need to learn, he's still gonna be stubborn, he doesn't like the treats that you bought, he's gonna want something else. It wasn't until it was so uncomfortable to grip control that I finally released it, even just a little bit, and thought, okay, what is he telling me? He's telling me he's part cattle dog, and he has energy. I did 2 days for the first 2 years with this dog to go to the park to get that energy out. And then he was awesome. But I had to surrender to the fact that he's telling me something. I can't just push my perception, my control, my ideas on this other thing. This pertains to kids. This pertains to our jobs. This pertains to life, to seasons, to our plans, to travel. This pertains to so many different things. And oftentimes it takes us getting to a point where it is so uncomfortable to stick to our old ways that we're then willing to try something else. Maybe it doesn't have to get that far. Maybe we can try a little mini experiment. What if I did it a different way this time instead of gripping until it got so frustrating that I was pulling my hair out? I think of Otto as the dog that broke a little bit of that perfectionism in me. And I'm so grateful for it. It was one of the first, and this is pretty fresh out of grad school. Up until that point, I had just followed the rule books and I had just done the right thing and didn't lead to perfection always, but it made me feel like I was in control and I could do things and I just repeat, and then it'll all be okay. And thank goodness I'm learning this lesson. Thank goodness I learned that lesson at that point to see that there's a gift in surrender as well, to see that there isn't always the capability to control. This is what he looks like now, if you're curious. He's super cute. My question for you is, where are you holding on so tightly? And with this particular story, why? If I got real with myself in that puppy phase, it's because that's all I had known. That was my safety. Just follow the literal puppy training book and you'll be okay and safe and it'll be good. Have a well-trained dog and you won't be judged by others. There was a lot wrapped up in that as I psychoanalyzed myself and tried to figure out what was going on, of why I was holding on so tightly. The point is, the illusion of control, if we feel any aversion to it, there's probably something really near and dear to you that you are holding on to control for. And that's not even bad or wrong or something to get rid of. It's just something to acknowledge. I have a fear of failure, or I have a fear of judgment from others, Or there has been too much change in my life. I need to grip something so that there's no more change. There's grief. Whatever it is for you, why? Why are you holding on so tightly? And what's your puppy? Maybe it's already something in your life that is mirroring back to you, hey, this isn't working anymore. Maybe it's something you intentionally bring into your life to mirror back to you, hey, there's other ways of doing things. Maybe it's actually going out for coffee with that friend that always kind of pokes your spots, just so that you can hear, okay, I see, or I feel that at least. I can get curious about that piece of it. Maybe you adopt a dog, I don't know. It worked for me. Start dating someone that calls you out, whatever that is. What is your puppy? What would help you to release a little bit of that grip, to understand a little bit more of why control might be at the center of something for you? Okay, story 2. Names on a page. We're back to the fire. You already heard the story of the fire, what happened as we heard that news, a little bit of afterwards, but I really want to highlight now right after the fire, those 48 to 72 hours after the fire. I hope no one has experienced anything like this. I have been so surprised the more stories that the more individuals I've shared this with, how many people say, oh, my parents' house when we were growing up, or my neighbor's house, or my aunt, my coworker, my client. There's been a surprising amount of stories. I hope you don't know. And if you don't know what happens after a fire, it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of phone calls. It's the police officers, the firefighters, the city officials, it's insurance and insurance and insurance and insurance calling you and asking to give necessary information. It is needed, but it's a lot. I swear Patrick and I did not hang up our phones. We just walked around the house looking at each other, being like, you good? We good? Okay, you got that piece, I got this piece. We had our phones on our ear. And I'm not exaggerating. We didn't wake up to the sunlight or to an alarm clock. We woke up to phone calls of people getting our attention from when we woke up to when we went to bed. When we weren't on the phone momentarily, we were sending documents via email. We were getting things in order. We were starting to look for where are we going to live next? What kind of rental can we figure out? And when we weren't sending those documents, we were on the phone again. And then something happened. The third day, this really feels like a gospel now. On the third day, there were no phone calls. It was so alarming, to be honest. We woke up not by a phone call, not by our alarm clock. We just woke up. We walked upstairs, kind of looked at each other. No one's heard anything. Everyone had all the information that they needed at that moment. There were plenty more phone calls to come, but at that moment, it was silent. And that's when it started to hit, because there was no more illusion of control. Those first 48, 72 hours, there were things to do, there were boxes to check, there was information to give, there were information that we needed to figure out what exactly happened, like what do we do next, what do we research, what do you do after this sort of situation, let's start the spreadsheet of inventorying every single item that we own. And then that went away, and all that was left was the feeling of losing what we had. And it's Thanksgiving week, to remind you when this was. And so we did what we were there to do. There was nothing else to do in that moment, so we cooked and ate Thanksgiving dinner. And it was so bizarre. But looking back, that was actually the first representation of that quote I shared earlier. We lost everything except what matters most. I did not realize that at the time. At the time, we were just kind of in a daze going through things. But there we were sitting around the table with my family, who was there supporting us. Gave Patrick's family a phone call to wish them a happy Thanksgiving, to know that everyone is okay in our lives, that they're there to support us with whatever comes afterwards. The title of this story, though, is Names on a Page. So not only did we not lose our family and friends, Patrick's sister set up a GoFundMe really early on. And within those first few days, Patrick and I would find ourselves scrolling on that GoFundMe between calls, between logistics. And to be honest, at first, that felt really icky. I was like, ooh, am I like looking for money? Or like, it just didn't sit right at first until I paused and thought, well, what are we actually doing here? What those conversations sounded like as he and I would scroll on the GoFundMe is, oh my gosh, I worked with her at camp 10 years ago. Oh wow, I haven't thought of this person in so long. We were best friends in middle school. Oh, the PTA just put together something. Oh my gosh, did you see Aunt Mary just donated? We were looking at the names. We were looking at the affirmations that we were not alone. It truly did not matter. And to be honest, if I was in your seat, I don't know if I would like really believe that. I mean, the number has gotten quite large and overwhelming in a way that I'm still working on to accept and receive. But truly, it didn't matter the number. It did not matter if it was $5. It did not matter if it was $5,000. It was the names. It was that people showed up. And we talked about energy in the introduction. It was the energy. People were showing up and saying, hey, I'm here, I see you, I read your story, I'm heartbroken. It was also this reminder for me that I didn't have to be in control of everything. I didn't have to figure out everything. People have our backs. They were there with us to help us figure it out. And this extended beyond just the names on the page. One of the first things that we did, because Patrick's car was in the garage at the time of the fire, so that was gone, we had to get him a car to get to work. At that dealership, we experienced the best service. I mean, we were in a certain state of mind where we were like, we're just here figuring it out. So maybe that added to it, but also how that was received and that they stayed after hours to help us figure it out. They were there as humans having conversations with us. The PTA, I mentioned that already at Patrick's school. He's an elementary school teacher. They already put together something, a fundraiser. One of my favorite notes from this season is from one of his past students in little kid handwriting that said, I'm sorry your house burned down, so my mom made cookies. And notes like the individual who is amazing for me, again, this is pre-wedding. She wrote on the GoFundMe page, she sent in a message, she said, I can't contribute financially at this time, but I would love to give the bride-to-be a facial. I'm an esthetician. That experience was one of the most soul-healing experiences. And again, all of these reminders that we didn't have to be in control of everything. In fact, when we release control, there's a whole lot that shows up that if we had tried to control it, it wouldn't have been there. Receive. How do you receive? When we're in control mode, again, not to say to never go into control mode or that it's bad, but when we're in that energy, there's a lot of force. There's a lot of parameters that we are putting around the situation. Sometimes that's awesome. Sometimes that limits our ability to see what else could be or to see what's already coming in. I had to set aside a lot of guilt. Still am having to set aside a lot of guilt or a lot of that lack of self-worth just to surrender to what is coming our way, to opportunities, to ideas that create other people are bringing to us that turn out to be wonderful. So my question for you with this story is, what is out of your control in the best way? Maybe you resonate with the story, or again, all the way back to why you're here. Is there a challenge on your heart, a question? Is there a desire that you're seeking? Is there a comfort that you're basking in? Whatever that environment is that brought you here today, what piece of that is out of your control, and how might it be for the best? What would you gain by releasing that? And I have an activity to help you do this. This is by Gay Hendricks. He wrote The Big Leap, if anyone has heard of that book. I don't know why it's a triangle, but he tells you to write a triangle, and that helps me remember this activity. So write a triangle, draw a line down the center of that triangle, and then on the left side, write me, and on the right side, write universe, or God, or other, or community, whatever you want to fill in on that right side. The point is, you can do this with anything. as you're going towards something, as you're asking a question, as you're facing a challenge, as you're trying to figure something out, take a moment to just outline and give yourself permission and space to say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I've got, this is what's on my mind. At the time of the fire, it was like, we are gonna answer the phone. We're the only ones who can answer the phone. We're gonna do that. I don't know how we're gonna get a car. I don't know how we're gonna fund that. I don't know where we're gonna live yet. I don't know how we're gonna furnish where we're gonna live. I don't know how we're gonna get back to work next week. Like, all of that was, we're just gonna let that one go for a little bit. It doesn't mean it always has to stay on that side of the triangle, but at least for that moment. And what's really cool about this activity is that you'll see that the things which sometimes feel ridiculous to let go of control over end up coming to fruition or getting resolved without you having to lift a finger. And the more you can document that for yourself and remind yourself that it doesn't all have to fall on you, the easier it is to release that control in the future. Third and final story, your penthouse suite. I know we've been waiting for this one. This story starts on a flight to Mexico. Sounds fun. Patrick and I are flying to a family wedding, so we're meeting all of his family in Mexico. His cousin is marrying someone from Mexico, and so all of her family is showing up there. We're looking forward to this beach vacation. The wedding was gonna happen there. We're eating dinner and meal with all of his family. We're celebrating there. We're enjoying pool time together there. And Patrick's parents and sister flew in right before us. So they were already starting to make their way to the hotel as we were enjoying our last hour of this flight. What we didn't know is that what was actually happening at the hotel is the hotel saying, I'm sorry, we have no record of your reservation. I think we've all been in some sort of situation like this. We all have a travel story where you look like this cute little kid, like sitting on luggage, actually sitting on luggage maybe, and being like, oh my gosh, or losing luggage, or not flying into the wrong Chicago airport. I've done that before, and thinking, oh gosh, okay, how am I gonna get to where I need to go? That moment. For whatever reason though, as we landed and we got the news via message that our reservations were not at the hotel that the entire family was at for this wedding, I so confidently looked at Patrick and I said, I just think we're gonna end up in a penthouse suite because of this. I was in some sort of mood, I don't know, but I was just like, I just think it's gonna be good. I was not stressed for whatever reason. I was just like, okay, it's gonna be even better. It just has to be. The thing is, and we can look at psych research, you can look at the woo side of things too, it all is actually saying the same thing. Our minds are so good at problem solving. They are so good for seeking out information that we prime it to seek out. But we first have to prime it with something, and sometimes we do that intentionally, and sometimes we do that subconsciously. This is the basis of the law of attraction. I love the phrase, the law of assumption. That's another one that's parallel, same concept. What do you assume about a situation that primes you to then look for the answers that would back that? That would avoid cognitive dissonance, would avoid the concepts of your reality not meshing with your beliefs or your assumptions or your past experiences. So, if you're sitting on your luggage, maybe think of that time when you were traveling and they don't have your reservation. What is your assumption in that moment? Is it, we're gonna end up back at the airport, we're not gonna attend this wedding, we flew here all for nothing, what are we gonna do for the next week, we're gonna miss the most important thing, when are we ever gonna meet her family? Or is it, I think we're gonna end up at a penthouse suite. Similarly, I like applying this story to our perceptions of others as well. When your colleague or coworker or spouse makes a mistake, frustrates us, is our first assumption, wow, I bet they're going through something really hard. Maybe their house just burned down. I bet they're doing the best that they can. Or is it, this is the third time this week I have had the same, the same story, the same conversation every single time. I'm so frustrated. How has this not been addressed? They need to figure this out. No judgment to ourselves or to anyone else. These are both human, it's normal, a normal human response. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's like, sometimes reality is, this is the 5th time this mistake has been made. But then it's, where do we actually have control? Where don't we have control over the coworker or colleague or the other side of that hotel desk where they're saying, we don't see your reservation. We don't have control there. But where do we have control? Hi. This is to break the ice, to share with a neighbor nearby. Say hi for a second. Pick who you're going to say hi to. And once you've said hi, share with them for a minute or two when you have had an experience with the illusion of control. Either, you can, same coin, 2 different sides, either you thought you had control when you didn't. If I just follow this puppy training book, I will train the perfect dog. Or you forgot you had control when you did. I'm not even going to explain further because I already heard a few of those. Whew, okay. Go ahead, share with your neighbor. We'll take a minute or 2 here. Hi, do you want to share? Yeah, when you've experienced, yeah. Yeah. All right, wrap up your conversations, or say, I'll catch you afterwards so we can finish our conversation. The illusion of control. I think we could keep talking, and you will keep talking about this all month long, because there's so many facets of this. Today we explored it through 3 different main stories and lessons. Why do we grip control in the first place? What happens when you release control? What comes in? What opportunities didn't you see before? And then what if control, releasing it, or having a new relationship with it, seeing where you are and aren't in control, is how you can access the penthouse suite in maybe a new way, in maybe a joyful, easy way, maybe in just a change of mind. That is all I have for you today. Remember, you are here for a reason. What is that for you? And take away, I think, no matter how long any of these presentations are, it's a lot of information, it's a lot of stories, it's a lot of ideas. So I always encourage you to think of one takeaway. One of the questions, one of the stories, one of the thoughts that entered your mind, and run with that for the week. And the rest will be there when you need it. Thank you. Oh, yes. Question.
I apologize if I missed it. What actually ended up happening in the hotel?
That was my question too.
Oh.
Did you get the penthouse suite?
I did. I didn't even say it, did I? We did get the penthouse suite.
Oh, wow.
Kind of. They did not have a reservation at the hotel. Thank you for asking, by the way, so I don't leave all of you hanging forever. They didn't have a reservation, even though we had it in the email. You don't have control over that situation. Patrick's dad used to be a pilot, and so used to fly in around this area, so there was a hotel he was familiar with. They had open reservations. I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that he'd stayed there before, but we went there, and what they had left were like gorgeous ocean view hotel rooms. I mean, it was we arrived. And to be honest, I'm very much an introvert. I was like, this is a dream because not every meal and every pool time and everything is with the lovely family who I very much enjoyed. But no, it led us to have like our own little intimate family vacation, and then we would visit the rest of the family at the other resort. It was great. Thank you for asking. Yes. Any other burning questions before I leave you all hanging again? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Well, thank you, Marin. That was great. So you were talking about one takeaway. I got sort of like three takeaways when you talk about letting go of control. First thing to recognize is that you don't have control, and then surrender. Go with the flow. And I remember growing up hearing, let go, let God. So go with the flow. The other thing is to be open to receive. If that means you have to ask for help, ask for it. I'm not a good person to ask for help, and it's easier for me to give than to receive. So that would be the second thing in terms of letting go of control. And the third thing I got out of it was be optimistic. Expect the penthouse. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so we're going to switch gears, but before we do that, I'd just like you to take a couple of cleansing breaths just to center and integrate this information. So take a deep breath in, and then let it go. One more breath, and let it go. Okay. Well, I'm switching gears, and so I want to talk about donations, and you're talking about budgets. We have a budget, and one of the things that helps us meet our budget is donations from the audience. So donations, it's one of the primary sources of income, which allows us to keep the lights on, keep the doors open, allows us to sponsor events and wonderful speakers. So in just a moment, the ushers will be passing the basket if you can give what you can give today. Otherwise, think about becoming a regular donor. On our website, there's a mechanism to do that through PayPal. You can become a regular donor and help us with our fundraising activities. So we invite you to be a partner with us. All right, that's all I got. So, ushers, give what you can. There are also Venmo QR codes in the basket as well.
When you can't outrun it anymore, when nothing helps that did before, like a river that finally floods the shore. Someday this will all be past and blow away like bones and ash, but today's no different than the last. That's the way these things go. That's the way these things go. But I'm not lost, I'm only wandering. I'm not adrift, I'm just at sea. I am not sure, I'm only guessing. This is right where I need to be. In the distance I hear a train that keeps rolling on as though nothing's changed, as if the world could ever be the same. That's the way these things go. That's the way these things go. But I'm not lost, I'm only wandering. I'm not adrift, I'm just at sea. I am not sure, I'm only guessing. This is right where I need to be. I saw the sun set up over the ridge, shaped like a heart on a knife's edge. And I remembered the last thing you said. That's the way these things go. That's the way these things go. Yesterday, 3 golden leaves fluttered down in front of me. For a moment, I felt the whole world breathe. For a moment.
I sit way back there.
All right. Well, thank you for these donations, and if you can help me bless the donations by repeating after me, God's perfect love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh. All right, so we are going to close by forming our closing circle. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 rows where our visitor is. If we can all kind of create a circle starting with that row. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Come this way. We can do it.
Thank you all for showing up today. Thank yourself for showing up today. I'm excited for what you're taking away from this, how you're filtering it through your own stories, your own experiences, your own possibilities of what's next. As a recap of today, remember, what do we have control over? What don't we have control over? How might that be the biggest blessing, is to release something that we tend to clutch and hold so closely to us, and use that with intention, with a little bit more surrender and release.